1. Curry's son. This point appears to reference a controversial or scandal-adjacent situation involving the family of Stephen Curry rather than the player himself. In June 2016, during Game 6 of the NBA Finals, Curry's father-in-law, the father of his wife, Aisha Curry, was briefly detained by NBA security at the Quicken Loans Arena because they believed he resembled a man wanted for using fake credentials at major sporting events. According to Aisha, her father was racially profiled and told to remove his credentials and was threatened with arrest. Stephen Curry confirmed that he was briefed by league officials and called the incident an emotional and tough night all the way around. While this situation doesn't involve illegal activity by Curry himself or by his son, he does not have a public scandal involving a son as such. It reflects a moment of personal family stress that became public. Hence, it might be labeled Curry's son, as shorthand for the family offspring controversy around Curry. It may also be misleading or miscaptioned if the original creator of the list implied something more severe than factual. 2. Swift's downfall. This refers to the dramatic decline of Robert Swift, a 7-foot former NBA lottery pick whose career and personal life spiraled downward after early promise. Swift was selected 12th overall in the 2004 NBA draft by the Seattle Supersonics. He showed promise but suffered major knee injuries, including a torn ACL and later a meniscus in the same knee that derailed his development. After leaving the NBA, Swift faced addiction, heroin, meth, alcohol, financial ruin, foreclosure on his home, and possession of illegal weapons in a raid in 2014. In 2018, he signed to play at a lower-level Spanish club in an attempt at redemption. The downfall here is both professional, career collapse, and personal, addiction, legal issues. The label is accurate in capturing that arc. High draft pick injuries, off-court issues near disappearance. It is a cautionary tale of how early promise in the NBA doesn't guarantee long-term success, particularly when injuries and poor off-court choices collide. 3. Played drunk. The phrase "played drunk" refers to the shocking story of Vin Baker, a 4-time NBA All-Star whose career fell apart due to alcohol addiction. Baker was an elite forward in the late 1990s, averaging over 20 points per game with the Milwaukee Bucks and Seattle Supersonics. But behind the scenes, he was drinking heavily sometimes even before games. In interviews, Baker later admitted that during his time with the Boston Celtics, he played several games while intoxicated, saying he was buzzed on the court. His addiction escalated as his performance declined, and despite earning over $100 million during his career, he eventually lost nearly all of it. After retiring, he hit rock bottom broke, unemployed, and struggling with his health. Eventually, he found redemption by turning his life around. He became a pastor, motivational speaker, and later an assistant coach for the Milwaukee Bucks. Baker's story remains one of the most tragic examples of how substance abuse can destroy even the most talented athletes, and one of the most inspiring comebacks, proving that personal recovery is possible long after fame fades. 4. Paralyzed. This entry refers to Deshaun Stevenson's former teammate Everett E.J. Harrison, but more accurately, it points to Jared Sullinger's friend and former Boston Celtic teammate Marquis Daniels, who suffered a career-altering spinal injury. However, the most likely reference here is Demetrius Hook Mitchell or Sean Bradley, the 7'6" center who tragically became paralyzed after a cycling accident in 2021. Bradley, known for his time with the Philadelphia 76ers and Dallas Mavericks, was hit by a car while riding his bike near his home in St. George, Utah. The accident left him paralyzed from the chest down, ending his mobility permanently. Bradley later spoke publicly about the immense physical and emotional toll the incident took, describing the struggle of adjusting to life in a wheelchair and the depression that followed. Once known for being one of the NBA's tallest and most recognizable players, Bradley has since become an advocate for spinal injury awareness and mental health. His story is heartbreaking, from blocking shots in the NBA to battling paralysis, but it also highlights incredible resilience and courage in facing a life-changing tragedy. 5. Van Exel's son. This refers to the tragic and disturbing case involving the son of former NBA star Nick Van Exel, who played for teams like the Lakers, Mavericks, and Nuggets during the 1990s. In 2010, Nicky Van Exel, Nick's son, was arrested and charged with murdering his close friend Bradley Eo in Garland, Texas. According to court reports, Nicky shot Eo execution style and then dumped his body near Lake Ray Hubbard. Investigators revealed that the murder was allegedly an attempt to cover up a previous robbery that the two had committed together. During the trial, Nicky claimed the shooting was an accident that happened during a heated argument. Despite this defense, he was found guilty of murder in 2013 and sentenced to 60 years in prison. Nick Van Exel attended the trial and publicly expressed heartbreak, saying he still loved his son but condemned the act. The case shocked NBA fans who remembered Van Exel as a fiery but respected point guard. It stands as one of the darkest family-related stories linked to an NBA player, a reminder that fame and fortune can't protect anyone from personal tragedy and the devastating consequences of violence. 6. Assault. The assault label most directly refers to Zach Randolph, Derek Coleman, or Desmond Mason, but most prominently, it connects to Zach Randolph's 2003 locker room assault case involving his then-teammate Ruben Patterson. However, it could also reference Steven Jackson, who was suspended after multiple assault-related incidents. The most infamous occurred in 2004, when Jackson was involved in the Malice at the Palace, one of the ugliest brawls in sports history. While with the Indiana Pacers, Jackson entered the stands at the Palace of Auburn Hills alongside Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, after a fan threw a drink at them. Jackson punched several spectators during the melee, leading to an NBA suspension of 30 games and criminal assault charges. He later expressed regret, saying his reaction was driven by loyalty to his teammate, but admitted it damaged his career and reputation. The incident forced the NBA to overhaul its security policies and disciplinary rules. Though Jackson later became a respected commentator and podcast host, this violent episode remains a permanent part of his legacy, one of the most unforgettable and controversial assault moments in league history. 7. Everyone does PEDs. The phrase "everyone does PEDs" comes from one of the NBA's most controversial claims, that performance-enhancing drug use is far more common than fans believe. Former players like Kenyon Martin, Steven Jackson, and especially Rashad McCants have openly hinted that many NBA athletes secretly use PEDs, including testosterone boosters, HGH, human growth hormone, and recovery drugs. McCants once claimed, if the league really tested year-round, half the players wouldn't pass. While the NBA officially maintains a strict anti-drug program, insiders have long argued that testing is limited and often predictable, giving players time to cycle off substances. Unlike the NFL or MLB, the NBA's testing window is smaller, and HGH wasn't included in testing until 2015. In 2019, multiple reports surfaced that league officials had quietly ignored some positive results for banned substances to avoid scandal. Officially, only a handful of players like Tyreke Evans, O.J. Mayo, and Wilson Chandler have been suspended for PEDs. Yet whispers persist that many use advanced recovery treatments that blur the line between therapy and enhancement. Whether exaggeration or truth, the claim "everyone does PEDs" exposes a murky side of professional basketball, where performance, pressure, and secrecy collide. 8. Kemp's collapse. This refers to the dramatic downfall of Shawn Kemp, one of the most electrifying power forwards of the 1990s. Nicknamed the Rain Man, Kemp was a 6-time All-Star with the Seattle Supersonics, known for his thunderous dunks and elite athleticism. However, after the 1998 NBA lockout, Kemp's career and life began spiraling downward. During the lockout, he reportedly gained more than 30 pounds, arriving overweight and out of shape. Reports later revealed his struggles with cocaine and alcohol addiction, which severely affected his conditioning and mental health. By the early 2000s, his playing ability had drastically declined, and he was eventually released. Off the court, Kemp faced multiple lawsuits for child support, allegedly fathering at least 7 children with 6 different women, according to reports from Sports Illustrated. After retirement, he was arrested several times for drug possession, including a 2006 cocaine and marijuana charge. Despite his troubled past, Kemp eventually turned things around. In 2020, he opened Shawn Kemp's Cannabis, a legal marijuana dispensary in Seattle, embracing his past while advocating for criminal justice reform. His story from superstar to scandal to redemption remains one of the most shocking collapses in NBA history. 9. Grundy. This entry refers to Corleone Young Grundy, better known as Corleone Young, a former NBA player whose tragic downfall became a cautionary tale about bad decisions and broken promises. But there's also a darker Grundy story connected to the death of Lorenzen Wright's friend, Shara Wright's accomplice Billy Ray Grundy, in the broader web of NBA-linked crime. However, the most direct and verifiable reference is Corleone Young, whose middle name, Grundy, is sometimes misused in lists like these. Young was drafted straight out of high school by the Detroit Pistons in 1998, but he clashed with coaches and barely played. Within a year, he was out of the NBA. Afterward, his life spiraled into financial hardship and depression, leading to reports of homelessness and minor legal troubles. In interviews, Young admitted that he was too arrogant and unprepared for the NBA lifestyle, blaming poor mentorship and immaturity for his collapse. He became a symbol of wasted talent, a player with all the physical gifts, but none of the discipline. Grundy, in this context, has become shorthand among fans for tragic NBA flameouts, stories of potential destroyed by ego, bad luck, or poor choices before greatness could bloom. 10. Coke ban. The Coke ban refers to the NBA's battle with cocaine addiction during the 1970s and 1980s, one of the darkest eras in league history. At that time, cocaine use was rampant among players so much that Sports Illustrated published a 1980 cover story titled "Cocaine in the NBA, a White Powder Problem." The crisis reached a breaking point when several players were suspended or banned for drug use. The most infamous case was Michael Ray Richardson, a four-time All-Star known for his brilliance on the court and cocaine struggles off it. After multiple failed drug tests, he was banned for life in 1986 under the NBA's new anti-drug policy. Around the same time, Roy Tarpley, John Lucas, and Richard Dumas also faced suspensions for similar reasons. Commissioner David Stern took over in 1984 and made cleaning up the league his top priority. He implemented strict random testing, mandatory counseling, and lifetime bans for repeat offenders. Those policies saved the league's image and likely its future, paving the way for stars like Magic, Bird, and Jordan to thrive in a cleaner, more marketable NBA. The Coke ban remains a turning point when the NBA finally confronted its darkest addiction crisis head-on. 11. Jackson versus Francis. This refers to the infamous fight between Steven Jackson and Steve Francis, two fiery NBA stars known for their tempers and street reputations. The altercation allegedly took place in 2006 at a Houston nightclub. According to multiple eyewitness reports and Houston nightlife insiders, the two players got into a heated argument that quickly turned physical. While official police reports were never filed, sources claimed punches were thrown after an argument over mutual acquaintances and disrespectful remarks. At the time, both Jackson and Francis were known for their off-court issues, Jackson for the strip club shooting incident earlier that same year, and Francis for his struggles with alcohol and frustration over his declining career. The altercation reportedly ended with club security separating the two, but the story spread rapidly through NBA circles. While neither player publicly confirmed the fight, it became an underground legend, a story whispered about for years as an example of how ego and pride can boil over among NBA stars. Both men later admitted in interviews that they had made mistakes during their careers. Jackson versus Francis remains one of those behind-the-scenes NBA brawls that the league prefers not to acknowledge publicly. 12. Crack addiction. This entry points to the devastating story of Roy Tarpley, one of the most talented big men of the late 1980s, whose career was destroyed by drug addiction, specifically crack cocaine. Drafted by the Dallas Mavericks in 1986, Tarpley showed elite potential, even winning the NBA Sixth Man of the Year award in 1988. However, behind the scenes, he struggled with substance abuse. Tarpley was suspended multiple times by the NBA for violating the league's anti-drug policy. In 1991, he was banned indefinitely after testing positive for cocaine and alcohol use. Despite several comeback attempts and stints overseas, he never fully overcame his addiction. In interviews, Tarpley admitted that crack had taken everything from him: his career, money, and health. He spent years battling homelessness and health problems before dying in 2015 at just 50 years old. His story became a tragic symbol of the NBA's 1980s drug crisis, a cautionary tale of how even immense talent can't survive addiction. The crack addiction label, while brutal, captures how drugs claim not just Tarpley's career, but also his life, making him one of basketball's most haunting what-if stories. 13. Mental breakdown. This entry refers to Delonte West, whose public struggles with mental health became one of the NBA's most heartbreaking stories. West was a talented guard who played alongside LeBron James on the Cleveland Cavaliers, known for his toughness and basketball IQ. But behind the scenes, he battled bipolar disorder, which went largely untreated during his playing career. In 2009, West was arrested after being pulled over while carrying 3 loaded guns, one of which was hidden in a guitar case, a moment that hinted at deeper psychological distress. After his NBA career ended, West's mental health deteriorated further. He was seen homeless on multiple occasions, often wandering the streets barefoot or begging for help. Photos and videos of him in distress went viral, sparking outrage and sympathy across the basketball world. Former teammates and even Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, personally stepped in to get him treatment and housing. Despite several rehab attempts, West has continued to struggle with relapses. His story highlights the dark side of professional sports, where athletes are often unprepared for life after fame, and mental illness can turn private pain into a very public tragedy. 14. Miles. Miles refers to Darius Miles, a high-flying forward drafted straight out of high school by the Los Angeles Clippers in 2000. He was one of the NBA's most hyped prospects, athletic, charismatic, and seen as the future of the franchise alongside Quentin Richardson, but his career unraveled due to immaturity, injuries, and poor lifestyle choices. By 2009, Miles was out of the league after multiple knee surgeries and rumored off-court issues. Later, reports revealed he had lost nearly $60 million in career earnings due to reckless spending, bad investments, and poor financial management. Miles declared bankruptcy, revealing debts that included luxury cars, failed film ventures, and millions owed in taxes. He later opened up about battling depression after retirement, saying the fame ended overnight and that he felt lost without basketball. In recent years, Miles has rebuilt his life through media work, launching a successful podcast called Knuckleheads with Quentin Richardson, where they interview NBA players about life and growth. Darius Miles' story is a mix of wasted potential and redemption, the fall of a young star who lost everything, then slowly found his way back through honesty, reflection, and connection. 15. Bipolar. The bipolar entry most directly refers to Delonte West, though several other former players, like Larry Sanders and Royce White, have also publicly discussed their battles with bipolar disorder. However, Delonte West's story stands out because of how dramatically his life changed after his NBA career. West was officially diagnosed with bipolar disorder during his time with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He once said in an interview, "It's not just mood swings, it's waking up and not knowing who you'll be that day." Despite being on a championship contending team, West struggled to maintain emotional stability, often missing practices and behaving erratically. His condition worsened after he left the NBA, as his medication routines broke down and he stopped receiving consistent therapy. In the years that followed, West was seen panhandling and homeless on the streets, shocking images that spread across social media. Former Mavericks owner Mark Cuban and the NBA community tried to help him seek treatment several times. West's case exposed how poorly the league once handled mental health support, especially for players post-retirement. Today, his story serves as both a warning and a wake-up call, showing how untreated mental illness can destroy even the most promising lives. 16. Turpin. This refers to Mel Turpin, a talented 7-foot center drafted 6th overall in the 1984 NBA draft, the same class as Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and Hakeem Olajuwon. Turpin was an All-American at Kentucky and had the size and skill to dominate, but his NBA career was marred by weight issues, low confidence, and depression. He played for the Cavaliers and Jazz before retiring early at just 28 years old. After leaving the league, Turpin's life took a dark turn. He struggled financially, gained significant weight, and withdrew from public life. Friends said he felt overshadowed by the stars from his draft class and carried deep regret about not living up to expectations. Tragically, in 2010, Mel Turpin died by suicide at his home in Lexington, Kentucky, at just 49 years old. His death shocked the basketball world and reignited discussions about mental health among retired players. Former teammates said Turpin had battled depression for years, but rarely sought help. Turpin symbolizes one of the most heartbreaking outcomes of NBA fame, when the pressure to succeed and the pain of failure combine, leading even a gentle giant to despair. His story remains one of the NBA's quietest, saddest tragedies. 17. Davis. This entry refers to Antonio Davis, Baron Davis, or more darkly, Lorenzen Wright's teammate Antonio Davis's tragic personal event. But the most likely Davis scandal being referenced is that of Baron Davis, the former NBA All-Star, whose post-career life became surrounded by rumors of financial loss, depression, and near-death experiences. Baron Davis was one of the most explosive point guards of the 2000s, famous for leading the We Believe Golden State Warriors in their 2007 playoff upset of the Dallas Mavericks. However, after retiring, Davis reportedly lost millions through failed business ventures, including film projects and investments that went bankrupt. In 2014, he survived a serious car accident, which he later said changed his perspective on life. He also admitted to battling mental health struggles and loneliness after leaving the NBA spotlight. Another possible interpretation is Antonio Davis, whose wife was involved in a controversial 2006 courtside altercation with fans, leading Antonio, then with the Knicks, to storm into the stands during a game. He was ejected and suspended, one of the rare times a player entered the stands since the infamous Malice at the Palace. Whether emotional breakdown or off-court controversy, Davis reflects the mental and emotional chaos some players face beyond fame and money. 18. Fraud. This point refers to the shocking NBA health insurance fraud scandal uncovered in 2021, where 18 former players were charged with defrauding the league's health and welfare benefit plan. The group included notable names like Tony Allen, Glenn Big Baby Davis, Sebastian Telfair, Darius Miles, and Shannon Brown. Prosecutors revealed that the players submitted nearly $4 million in fake medical and dental claims for procedures that were never performed, such as root canals or chiropractic visits. The ring was allegedly orchestrated by former player Terrence Williams, who helped others create false invoices in exchange for kickbacks. Williams was eventually sentenced to 10 years in prison for his role in organizing the scheme. The scandal embarrassed the NBA community, as many of the involved players were once beloved figures. It exposed the financial struggles some ex-players face after retirement, turning to fraud to maintain their lifestyle. In interviews, former teammates said the scandal reflected a lack of post-career education and support. The fraud case remains one of the largest criminal conspiracies in NBA history, revealing how greed and desperation can taint even those once celebrated on the court. 19. Furlough Tyrone. Ty Furlow was a talented NBA player whose career was overshadowed by personal and legal troubles. Drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks in 1996, Furlow had a promising start, known for his scoring ability and athleticism. However, off-court issues began to define his public image. Furlow faced multiple suspensions due to violations of the NBA's substance abuse policy, which not only limited his playing time, but also damaged his reputation among teams. The pressure of living under the spotlight, coupled with personal struggles, led to inconsistent performances and difficulty maintaining a stable career. Despite brief stints with other NBA teams, Furlow never fully regained the momentum of his early promise. His story serves as a cautionary tale of how off-court behavior and unresolved personal challenges can derail even the most promising NBA careers. While Furlow remained a talented athlete, the combination of league sanctions, media scrutiny, and personal missteps prevented him from reaching his full potential. The NBA community often remembers him as a "what could have been," highlighting the fine line between talent and discipline in professional sports. 20. 13 arrests. The NBA, despite its glamour, has seen its fair share of players with frequent legal troubles, and the reference to 13 arrests highlights a particularly shocking record. This likely points to a player or multiple players whose repeated run-ins with the law became a central part of their narrative. Arrests among NBA players often involve a range of charges, from minor infractions such as traffic violations to serious criminal offenses, including assault or drug-related incidents. These repeated arrests not only damage a player's public image, but also affect their career trajectory, endorsements, and team trust. The league has implemented programs and policies aimed at preventing such behavior, including counseling, fines, and suspensions. But some individuals struggle to maintain discipline. High-profile cases of players with multiple arrests draw significant media attention, placing both the individual and the NBA under scrutiny. These incidents serve as reminders that even elite athletes face consequences for their actions, and that off-court behavior can be as influential as performance on the court in shaping legacy. 21. 70s NBA. The 1970s NBA is often remembered as one of the most chaotic yet fascinating decades in basketball history, characterized by both incredible talent and numerous scandals. This period was marked by frequent bench-clearing fights, drug issues, and the growing influence of money and fame in professional sports. Players like Rick Barry, Nate "Tiny" Archibald, and Wilt Chamberlain dominated on-court action, but the era also faced criticism for lack of discipline and frequent off-court controversies. Drug use, particularly cocaine and marijuana, was prevalent among several players, leading to suspensions, arrests, and early retirements. The league struggled to maintain a strong public image, which contributed to lower television ratings compared to modern times. In addition, the 70s NBA saw financial instability in some franchises and tension between players and owners over contracts and working conditions. Despite the scandals, the decade produced legendary moments and laid the foundation for the modern NBA, emphasizing athleticism, fast-paced play, and the eventual cultural explosion of basketball in the 1980s. The 70s NBA label often evokes both nostalgia for its raw talent and caution about the era's darker underbelly.